Uh, Thank you for joining. So thank you everyone for joining today. My name is Marla Simmons and I am the Director of Unit Map Expansion for Engrain. I know that's a fancy title there. We're a recognized leader in next generation interactive technology and data visualization software solutions. Super excited to be here today, attending AIM Reconnect and moderating this roundtable. So we all know what was the biggest word of last year and this year that we use every day. So COVID-19 definitely was a global pandemic that launched with us early March 2020. Companies really of all shapes and sizes were being forced to implement work at home policies and minimize workforces to cut operating expenses and more. And definitely multifamily was hit with that. So our roundtable topic along with that is pandemic trends that are here to stay and those that aren't. So we definitely want this to be interactive and we're super excited again. So we have a superstar panel today. You could see the three of us now. So what I'll do is I'll let the panelists just do a quick introduction. This is funny. We were supposed to start with Robert. We'll give him some grief when he gets on. So yeah, so Chris, why don't you go ahead and kick it off and introduce yourself and all that good stuff.
Sure. Thanks for having me on, Marlo. So hi, everyone. I'm Chris Kostoulis. I'm the co-founder and the COO of Peak. We are a virtual leasing solution kind of circled around virtual tours for every part of a community, every part of an asset. So every single unit, every amenity. We believe that kind of virtual tours are the center point in the leasing process and can really kind of add value and help engage prospects. Quick background about me. So I'm based here in New York City. And before kind of founding Peak, I spent most of my time in technology. So before Peak, I was at Uber for 6.5 years. So saw that company go from 300 folks to 25,000. Super excited to be here and chatting with this awesome panel.
Well, awesome. And just a little fun fact that I read about Molly is Molly was at Uber also. But there's probably so many people there, people ask you, do you know so-and-so? No. But Molly, please take it away.
Sure. Yeah, I was at Uber. I did some freelance design for them. So
very cool. Small world.
I am Molly Sleeper. I am the marketing manager at Blanton Turner. We are a Seattle-based property management company that recently opened or started managing a portfolio in Oregon. We have about 75 plus properties, both multifamily and commercial, and really happy to be here and excited to chat with everyone.
Yay. Thanks, Molly. And then Robert, you're on mute, but please go ahead. We were going to tease you about signing in but we're not. You're still on mute. Here, let me see if I can unmute you. You got to unmute yourself. This is good. Do you know sign language? Okay. You're still on mute.
It's only appropriate that this is a technology roundtable.
Well, hey, I just turned my phone on silent before and it was still ringing. So, and maybe my team can let my boss know because he keeps calling that I'm kind of doing something right now. Okay, Robert, you're still on mute. I love this. It's usually I'm the one. If you look on the bottom of the screen where all four of us is, you could see the little camera and just all you got to do is. Oh, there you are. See? Yay! Hi.
Same difference. So yeah. Hey, I'm here. Okay.
Oh, so yeah. So we're just, if you could do a quick introduction and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. For me?
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit pause on my Slack because it's going crazy. Yeah. Robert Turnbull, president, founder, and COO of BetterBot. I've been in multifamily for 22 years. I had a lot more hair when I started, less gray. Started out with building some ILSs, apartmentguide.com and rentals.com. later Rent Wiki and so forth and so on. So now I'm 22 years in, and we're helping solve some of the technology problems with automation technology such as BetterBot. So that's my background.
I love it. So what's really compelling about our topic today is like,
No, I can't hear.
Oh, you can't hear? Are you messing with me? Oh my gosh, guys. You can hear. All right, that's enough.
We can hear you.
What's awesome though about what we're going to be talking about today, like trends that are going to be staying and going, is when I met Robert, this was 21 years ago, we were like a print publication with Apartment Guide. And we just kind of gave them internet when they bought a listing from us. And everyone said to us, internet is never, it's going away, it's bad. And now look.
Not going to hear you again. Okay.
Good.
We're good.
So we'll go ahead and get started. God, I can't believe this. Okay. I'm going to just whisper in here. So we're going to go ahead and get started today. And, you know, technology is definitely advanced big time. And multifamily has always like been a little bit behind the 8 ball. What we saw though, pre-COVID, was definitely like coming into play, which, you know, a couple of good headliners here. So smart technology, very big. Bulk Wi-Fi, that's like to have like ultimate connectivity on site. Artificial intelligence, known as AI. Reservation software for amenities, for short-term rentals, like flex living. As I say flex living now after seeing that presentation a while back. Self-guided tour platforms, virtual tour platforms, resident engagement platforms, concierge apps. I mean, now it's like groceries, pharmacy, package. You can even get beer and wine delivered. And then yesterday I saw there's a new app coming out where they're going to do your laundry for you. You know, and it's just a fee a month. I just saw that. With that said, you know, we don't have a whole lot of time, so we wanted to focus on a couple of topics today. And then if we have time, we definitely want to dive into more. And again, just so you guys are, you know, roundtable topic is pandemic tech trends that are here to stay, and then those that aren't. So feel free to chat, interact, and then we'll go ahead and jump right in. So we're going to start today with like the big one, like, well, they're all big ones. Self-guided tours and virtual tour platforms, you know, that we know that are definitely going to be here to stay. And it's interesting because the industry was already just introducing the virtual tours, like before COVID. So, you know, it was real interesting. It will be interesting to kind of hear from the panel and from press, though, like what's happened since COVID. So let's definitely, we're going to, you know, start with self-guided tours. With that, so Chris, are you able to share, like, tell us out there too, like what all types of tours are offered today?
Yeah, definitely. So there's a huge spectrum, obviously. Like virtual tours get kind of thrown out there, you know, all the time. So I think the way that we think about it is there's kind of like the spectrum, right? And it's trust on one end and then like convenience on the other end. And so really when you think about it, like if you start at the, you know, convenience kind of low trust is really just like 2D photos and text, right? That is like the first virtual tour. That's what the first virtual tour was. And then from there, you kind of go up. So you can go do, you know, 2D marketing videos, right? Which are just simply images that have nice music and are kind of like a slideshow, right? A little bit more, I guess, a little bit more trust, but, you know, still not too much. Then you can go up one more level and you can look at iPhone videos. So iPhone videos are, you know, they kind of give you a sense of the property. They give you a sense of what you're looking at, probably a little bit more trust, fairly convenient, but may not do the best job of kind of telling the story. And then you can go up one more level and you go to kind of 360 or 3D for, you know, either kind of model units. And then even another step forward is for every single unit, every single amenity within a property. And that's kind of, you know, that's interactive. It's you know, high trust, I would say. And it's also kind of very, very convenient in that, you know, people can do it from home. If you keep moving forward in that journey, there's also self-guided. So self-guided, a little bit less convenient, but very, very trustworthy because you're actually, you know, you're physically there. And then kind of all the way at the end, there's the kind of the guided tour that we're all used to and that we all know very well. And that kind of is, highly transparent and trustworthy, and then a little bit inconvenient as well.
Very cool. Well, I think you get an A+. You hit all of them. Molly, I'd love to know, like, pre-COVID, how your properties were handling touring. Like, was it just self-tour? And then also it'd be great if you could share a little bit about, since COVID, what you've implemented and like details. That'd be great.
Yeah, so we relied primarily on the guided tours because that was where we were able to really set ourselves apart, is providing this really great in-person experience. We hire amazing people and we want them to get to interact with these prospects, and we feel that that's what sets us apart. So we were in the process of rolling out Rently when everything kind of shut down. So we had kind of positioned ourselves pretty well, but we're just testing it at a couple of properties and seeing how we could make it work with multifamily, because that wasn't originally how it was set up. So we jumped right in with both feet to the self-guided tour options and really have found a lot of success there. I think people, like Chris was mentioning, that trust of letting people just go in on their own and poke around and not really feel the quote unquote influence of someone who's trying to sell you on an apartment. And then we have also done the virtual tours at all of our communities. We kind of felt we were on the leading edge by having one at each of our properties pre-COVID. And now it's a necessity. As soon as we have an empty unit, we get a virtual tour because people are able to explore it from the convenience of their home. It has measurements. They can see if their couch fits, if they can get a bigger bed, all of the things that you can kind of do with a tape measure and with walking around that you aren't necessarily able to do for a lot of 2020 in this past year.
No, that's great feedback too. I'd love to know, Robert, like, how do chatbots and AI like fit into the tour world, the self-guided tour, all that?
Right. And I want to make sure you can hear me now.
I can hear you.
Okay, good.
I like it.
Yeah, so it's interesting. In was it January of 2020, we had a client in California say, hey, could you put in, and I'll get to that in just a second, but I'll give you the genesis. Can you put virtual tours and videos inside your bot? And we're like, well, that's a great idea. And so we set about that. And I think in March of 2020, we launched the ability to have virtual tours and videos inside the bot. March of 2020, mind you. Suddenly the pandemic hits and now everyone's asking, oh my gosh, can you put virtual tours and videos in there? And so it took off. And there was a client idea. The next thing was appointment type. So it used to be you just set an appointment, someone showed up at the property, that's it. But all of a sudden with this pandemic, there's all these new appointment types. There's now in person, you have self-guided, you have live video, which is like a Zoom, and then you have even phone. So we have 4 different appointment types now in our bot. And the third thing that happened was COVID protocols. Holly Berkey at Lincoln called us one day and said, can you put COVID protocols in there so they can only do an on-premise if they pass the protocols? And so all these ideas were coming from clients, a lot of it from the pandemic. I'm not sure that the COVID protocols will stay, but certainly the new appointment types will. I do have some data for you.
Oh, you know, I love data. Ding, ding, ding.
Here's the data. All right. So we have about 165 property management companies that work with us at BetterBot. We have several thousand properties. So we have the 4 appointment types. Of the 4, 96% of our properties have in-person enabled. Now this has gone up because more and more people are doing on-premise. 85% have phone enabled, so you can schedule a phone appointment just to call. 27% have live video like a Zoom, and self-guided is 12%. I think that will grow. Now what's interesting is the last part is total appointment types. So of all the appointments, we generate about 26 appointments per property per month, times that by however many thousands of properties. 72% are now in person, 17% are phone, 9% are live video, and 2% are self-guided. That will change because I don't think consumers are entirely sure what self-guided is, But I think that will certainly go up as we start to get more self-guided out there and people are more familiar with that concept.
Awesome. Well, I would love to quickly welcome Shane Gilman with Gates Hudson. Shane, thank you. I know you had a prior, you're just a wanted guy today. I had to book him like 3 months in advance, everyone. I actually called him yesterday and said, hey, please. So Shane, if you could just do like a quick introduction, and then I'd love to know what Gates Hudson is doing with the touring, like before COVID and then now. So you got the floor.
Absolutely. Well, it's nice to meet everybody and put faces to names, Molly and Chris and Mr. Robert and Marlo. Shane Gilman, Vice President of Marketing at Gates Hudson. I have an amazing marketing team that run everything day to day, and I get to talk to wonderful folks like you and share their knowledge. So yeah, 2020 was an interesting year for everybody. Robert, I've worked with you and BetterBot for a better part of, gosh, it's got to be 3 years now.
3 years, yeah.
2 different companies. We've learned a lot. You've optimized the product. I think one thing that Robert forgot to mention about BetterBot that we see a lot of value in is the ability to plug the bot in on Google My Business and social media, and soon to be pretty much all your ILSs. So imagine having that availability everywhere that you live digitally. That's going to be a big key. The numbers are fascinating. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but the stats that Robert shared are fascinating. Because as Robert knows, pre-pandemic, we knew that this change was going to happen. And we always speak as an industry that we're always far behind on the 8 ball. We're slow to adapt, yada, yada, yada. I think that the blessing of COVID-19 is it's shown that as an industry, we can cohesively approach difficult topics and sensitive topics as a team, as a group, and rely on each other as resources. So pre-pandemic, Marlo, we were doing the basics, right? We had regular office hours. We only toured during office hours. And then just like everybody else, during the winter months, you reduce your office hours for touring because you don't want to tour in the dark and people feel uncomfortable. And about 2 years ago, we started implementing Matterport. So we saw the need and the demand for folks wanting to take their time and kind of see things on demand. And in addition to that, we started creating content on YouTube and other video content platforms. And we started posting on Facebook and doing a unit type of the week, floor plan type of the week. And it was all about content. And we started to see that shift. When prospects came in the door to tour with an associate, they're like, look, I know the price, I know the availability. I just want to see the product myself before I commit. I've got everything else. Don't sell me. Don't want to hear the spiel. So we started to see that shift. And then when the pandemic hit, we quickly equipped our on-site teams with technologies, right? So we did everything from FaceTime to Duo, Zoom, Microsoft's platform. WhatsApp was a big one, believe it or not. And then we worked with BetterBot to tie all those channels in, because you're layering technology over technology over technology, and you have on-site teams that may not be experts in all 5, 6, or 7 different product types that you're offering to the consumer. So technology like BetterBot just made that a seamless transition, which is awesome. And ultimately, we took the leap into self-touring as well. And what's fascinating is we've taken our time. We really try to partner with somebody that was fully integrated with our PMS, with somebody that was fully integrated with the CRM, and somebody that was willing to work with other partners like a BetterBot. That's really important in our decision making when taking on newer technology. So all in all, we've had a really good experience. And when you're ready, Marla, I can share a mini case study that we did late Q1 into Q2 of last year, which was 100% virtual.
Very cool. Yeah, hold on to that for a sec. I like that. Chris, I'd love to know, like, any, like, you know, we have Z generation, I mean, we have millennials, but I'd love to know, like, any data or anything that you have on preferred tours that prospects want.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a lot of data out there. That's the good news. I mean, whether it's Zillow or Redfin or kind of a lot of these kind of bigger players have put together really detailed studies. I think going back and Shane and Robert made really good points on this. Like, thinking about what COVID did, like one of the key stats that we really like to look at is before COVID, you know, can I see a virtual tour as the first question a leasing manager or a leasing agent gets? It was probably like 1 to 5%, I would say. After COVID, we saw that jump to like 80% with some of the partners that we work with. And really what that means and what we learned is there was a huge shift in consumer expectations, right? So now consumers know that they're possible. They almost expect them. And if you tell them, hey, we don't actually have this, or this isn't something that, you know, is available, they probably will just, you know, they'll probably look at the next place. So I think like that kind of, like, we call it a consumer earthquake, whatever kind of fancy phrase you want to give to it. That really is here to stay. And the data is really interesting. When you think about millennials, I think the stat is 45% of millennials or Gen Zs moved during the last year and a half, right? So these are like very, very mobile populations. They're very comfortable with technology. They've almost expected to buy and look at everything online. They're just very, very comfortable using this. They expect it. So that's kind of that. Those are some really interesting stats. And I think one of the key things as well was 75% of millennials were very comfortable kind of making that decision completely virtually, which was very, very interesting that Zillow found.
Thank you for that. We had a good question earlier, and I'm trying to man chat. I'm like popping the popcorn here and doing everything that about self-guided tours. And I can help with that a little bit with success on a self-guided tour. I could tell you there's multiple factors, and I can get with you afterwards. The main thing with self-guided tour is you have to have smart technology. You have to have, you know, for that prospective resident to be able to get in, and you have to stats and show 83% of people need a map. So you need an interactive map in order to like be able to get to the exact unit that apartment community has available, or the model. Very big. Verification. So like checkpoint ID or others, that's going to be key too, to like protect you with prospective residents that are coming at night to see an apartment or whatever hours, which actually statistics show that most people prefer to come in non-business hours. And Robert, I think you got some stats with that also. But the big thing again with self-guided tours is chatbots. And again, I'm not promoting or plugging anyone here, but chatbots are great. They're going to like direct you to help you get there. You know, having that on your website, you know, is very, very key with that. So, and we can get with you afterwards on it. I just happen to know a lot of data about it, which I think is fascinating. And I know with time's sake, I do want to like kind of move on because we're like right at 12:20. So self-guided tours, we all agree, virtual tours, that they're here to stay. Should I stay or should I go now?
Absolutely.
I got a very cool. All right. So now we're going to actually dive into chatbots. We're going to talk about chatbots and AI, like asset intelligence, or wait, artificial intelligence.
Intelligence, there you go.
We offer a product called Asset Intelligence. So there I go again. I'm not plugging though. So Robert, describe like chatbot and what's the benefits. of artificial intelligence? Like there's so many names you got now, right? You got Mia, you got Leroy, you got
Siri, yeah, all that stuff. Artificial intelligence is kind of a broadly used term and often misused term, and really just means machine learning. What we refer to it in multifamily and artificial intelligence is natural language processing is often used. So that's the ability to type something and get a response. For me, we have a stat that I find fascinating, that 34% of the leasing staff in our industry have an attrition rate of 34%. That's higher than retail. Yeah. That's terrible. And the number one reason given in a survey was that they're overwhelmed. They're simply overwhelmed, not only at the property, but they have so many inbound leads from so many different sources. So technology is wonderful, but it's created a bit of a problem here because it's overwhelming the people at the property and they're getting frustrated. So let's use technology, automation technology in this instance, to give these people and get rid of 80% of the repetitive, low reward menial tasks and give them 80% of their time back. So they can do what they do best, which is be a human talking to other humans. So it's automation technology designed to help solve some of the technology issues, get prospective renters and consumers information very quickly. And as you said, we have some stats, 58% of the conversations and appointments and self-guided tours and everything else is actually happening after hours, after 6 p.m. and before 8 a.m. So it's working when other people are not.
Yeah, I'll add that I was listening to a UKAA webinar that Ingrain and SmartRent were hosting, and my mouth dropped because I come from the advertising side when I heard Cortland share on this call, and it's public information. It's on video that they use SmartRent as a self-guided tour platform. In the first month, I believe they had 360 tours that were scheduled. They have 60 properties, 360 tours that were scheduled, and there should be a poll, but we don't know how to do that. Robert, we'll have you do the poll. No. 360 tours scheduled in 1 month, but this is what was fascinating. They had a 65% show up rate. So their tour to show ratio was like out the door. So, I mean, I love those stats. And again, the majority of those people came after hours. So yeah, I'd love to transition a little bit. Molly, are you using chatbots? I think you said you're how are you doing with that? I know you're maybe early phases of it.
Yeah, no, we've used Knock for a while. It doesn't have the AI component. It's definitely very reliant on our agents to be responsive within the 24-hour windows, to make sure they're answering the questions, to make sure they're preloading the questions that we know that people are going to be asking right off the bat. But it hands down has been absolutely essential during COVID. I think that we use it to make sure that we're able to respond to people in a timely manner, and also on all these different platforms. It was mentioned earlier, just our leasing agents don't necessarily have the knowledge of all of these different platforms that people are going to want to interact on. And this allows people to just log onto their computer, they can text, they can email, they can make a phone call through it, and be able to communicate with people in all of these different ways from one central location.
I love that. That's great. I wish I had that when I leased apartments, but that's okay. Shane, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you implemented chatbots? How are you doing with that?
We have. So we, without giving names, I guess you could rhyme Everbot. I don't know. I don't know how to get around it. We use Robert's.
I'm not sure. I didn't know any of these people knew each other. This panel was put together yesterday when I got back from Mexico. So just for the record, I didn't know that, but that's awesome. Go ahead.
Yeah, we use BetterBot. We use contact centers. Again, not every property is created equal. Not every ownership understands technology and the benefits of the on-site teams. So we have variations. And what's really interesting, Robert knows I'm a numbers geek too. Somebody needs to do a study correlation between contact centers, the human being touch, versus the bot, and break down those appointments by time of day, day of week, and what product type the person wanted when engaging for a virtual tour or scheduling an in-person tour. Because my numbers are very different, and I believe Robert's numbers, because what's interesting is when you separate your on-site team conversion and KPIs to that of a third-party contact center, to that of a bot, they're all uniquely different, which means you need to market to those individuals in a unique sense, right? You can't throw them all in the same bucket as we all tend to do, because we're doing a million different things. So that's the feedback I would give there. But yes, we're fans of bots. You got to use them properly. And Robert, the technology changes, the enhancements happen so quickly that we tend to fall behind in catching up, which is kind of interesting, right? Because we always look back and say, man, we've asked for X, Y, and Z. Why don't we have it yet? The opposite is true on the bot side of things. They're able to pivot and enhance their technology a lot quicker than other tools that you would use.
That's good feedback.
Well, two quick stats, if you don't mind, Win.
Please.
Show rate, you mentioned that just a second ago. The call center, this working with management companies, has a 50% show rate. This call centers, again, not my data. Properties typically get around 60 to 65%. The bot, and actually Gates Hudson was the first one to tell us this, was a 90% show rate. We're like, is that good or bad? When we didn't know the show rates, and they're like, that's actually really good. We figured out it's because the bot's not trying to get you to come at a certain time. It's not asking anything up front. It allows you to self-select, unselect, reselect. It's like open table. So usually when people are allowed to self-select and reselect, they usually have a higher show rate. And that's one of the things that the bot provides. It's also reducing the sales the cycle, the leasing cycle. The average ILS has, from the time that someone puts the information into the time that they lease or become a lead to lease, it's an average of 60 days. Rent Dynamics came up with this information. The bot has 13 days. So it's actually shrinking the leasing cycle. So a couple of stats for you to help support what bots and automation are doing.
Love it.
Great, thank you. And then let's see, so our time right now, okay, we got 5-6 more minutes. So I'm gonna move a little quicker, but I love all this stuff. And this is recorded that we can send to everyone for a nominal fee. No, we're not gonna charge you. So resident engagement and prospect engagement platforms. So you have these concierge apps that are pretty cool. You have Valley Living that has an app that will deliver your laundry to you. They'll clean. Is Molly and Shane, are you engaging at all with resident engagement apps or concierge types of apps?
We're not using any apps for that. It's definitely something that we stress pretty heavily to our teams to make sure that there is resident engagement. It's been a struggle through the last year to make sure everyone is comfortable interacting and that we're providing these safe spaces. So we've done a lot of tour takeaways or little goodie bags or virtual cooking classes or pumpkin decorating contests, anything that doesn't really require people to gather. And we've definitely struggled with getting the word out, whether it's a flyer in the elevator, if you're emailing everyone. There's just a lot of ways to contact people, but there isn't really a guaranteed way to reach everyone that they're going to hear and participate. So definitely interested to hear more about what you all are seeing and what's worked for you.
How about you, Shane?
Yeah, so a mixed bag, just due to how we're set up at Gates, being a third-party management company with almost 20,000 units. We use tools like Kobu, so that's an app-based environment for residents, which has worked really well. I've actually been shocked. We always have we have biases and preperceptions on how something's going to work. And we're getting some good data out of Kobu. Secondarily to that, we're partnering with a company called Flamingo, and they have a vast array of technologies a la carte. It's kind of really interesting. So we're engaging them for some user interfaces with residents. And then lastly, it's just going back to the basics, social media, email communication to our residents. And again, not every building is created equal. You got an A+ trophy building, you got to treat it a lot differently than just say a traditional suburban garden style community. Folks have very different expectations. So we try and fulfill that both with common sense, training our teams, like Molly was saying, and ensuring that that resident experience is the best it possibly can be. For a short period of time, we paused all resident surveys when the pandemic first happened. And now we've started to turn that back on. And the perception was, we're going to get slammed. We are going to get hit from all sides. Let's prepare. Battle stations, everybody. And it was kind of opposite. Residents sung the team's praises. We got feedback and stories that we're super proud of. So yeah, it's a little bit of everything on the gate side.
That's good to hear. So we now have 3 more minutes. Kristen, welcome to our panel. Did you want to add anything? Or you can just hang out with us. No worries. Okay. I like it. The more the merrier, guys.
We play a mean game of rock, paper, scissors.
Woohoo. Okay. So good stuff. And I like that, Molly, like hearing that you're changing the way that activities are done. You know, at TAA, Rick Graff was sharing that a lot of the NAA updates that advocate, which, you know, that's where all the lobbying happens and all the fun stuff. He was sharing that he didn't think for years that we would be lobbying in person, you know, to senators and all that. He thought that that was all definitely going to change. So it is kind of interesting to see the times and what's changing with that. So we have, okay, couple more minutes. I'd love to know QR codes are how crazy is that? They were like a flop, right? How many years ago? And then boom, right out of nowhere, they're back. How do we feel about QR codes in multifamily? Molly?
I mean, we're absolutely using them as much as possible. I think when content was a lot bigger and people were just kind of nervous about surfaces and everything, QR codes were absolutely how we gave information. We put them on our A boards. It's something that someone can almost get driving by. So we're slapping them on everything.
I think they're here to stay personally because of sustainability and all that stuff that's coming. Shane, real quick, any feedback?
Yeah. They're here to stay, and I remember 10 years ago hanging out with folks like Jared Miller, you know, coming up with memes and making fun of how companies use QR codes. Remember, they used to put them in toilet bowls and inside refrigerators, and it just wasn't used properly. And I think it caused a lot of confusion, but it's back. We're using it on notices for prospects and residents. You know, somebody that walks up to a window, they can scan it and get a copy of the notice. Or we put in instructions on how to self-tour with Smart Rent, for instance. So there's a QR code, they scan it, boom, they have the link to do everything from their phones. It's here to stay.
Well, awesome. I don't know if this is going to shut off on us, but we did have a person, Courtney, join. Courtney, I'm not sure if you want to say something real quick, and then we're going to probably wrap up. Courtney, before you do, I will say that we want to talk about also the rentable spaces. We can send that out to you guys, like our notes and stuff on that. Courtney, did you want to say anything? I like when people join. Don't be shy. Oh, well, guys, thank you so much for having us. We actually did get through the majority of our topics today. We really appreciate it. Dennis indicated that this video will be available to you, and any feedback that you have or anything about more tech products that we left out, we'd love to know. But yeah, thank you very, very much. And we will see you at AIM. We'll see you at the next roundtable. Thanks, guys. And thanks, panelists. We appreciate you.